Hey, so we're back with our third session. So far we've talked about laying down a foundation and laying down the foundation so biblical truths and concepts can be taught. In the last session we looked at the space that we have and using that space to best teach and best engage preschoolers so that we can best teach biblical truths and concepts. So now we have kids in our space. What we want to talk about now is guiding behaviors so that we can best teach biblical truth and concepts to our preschoolers. So we've all been there, too many kids and too few leaders, or maybe we had plenty of leaders, but all the leaders were just convinced there was a full moon and it's made all of our kids crazy. I think discipline, it can be one of the hardest parts of children's ministry. I think that is true because of the word. Discipline, leaders and teachers don't feel they have the right to discipline, or they don't want to. I mean, it's church. It should be a fun, safe, good, positive environment. Well, the problem is discipline is not a negative word. Discipline, the way I like to define it, is we're going to teach our kids to make right choices. So we're going to teach them to make right choices without the fear of something being taken away or missing out on something, which is what punishment is. So don't confuse discipline with punishment. Discipline is just helping kids to make those right choices. So think about, when you think about it that way, we are really setting our kids up to be able to learn these great truths that we want to teach them. So I believe that having a disciplined classroom starts way before your first child even enters into the room or space. Now I know, again, we talked about that. A lot of you guys do not have rooms. You have a carpet, or you are sharing a space with lots of other different ages of kids, and so that's okay. But what you want to do is make sure that your space is inviting to the age of the kids that you are working with. Remember, we're talking about preschoolers. Preschoolers learn best through play. So we want our spaces to be a place where a preschooler can come in and to play and to engage with their environment. We want to have age-appropriate toys and centers that will reinforce the lesson that you're teaching. They're not just going to be random things there. They really are we're going to use those to teach our biblical truths and concepts. So let me give you an example. Our youngest classroom that we have right now is our baby room, and it is dominated. This room has birth through, I think our oldest kids in there are like 16 months. So it is just dominated by 1-year-old girls. We have about 5 or 6 that come on a regular basis, and every once in a while we have a boy. And every one of these girls love baby dolls. So, we've used it as a teaching time because the baby dolls, we did not have enough baby dolls for each child, each little girl to have her own doll, and some of them always wanted 2. They wanted to carry 2 baby dolls. So the teachers would definitely use that as a teaching time and about sharing how God wants us to share. But and that's great. That is a way to guide that behavior. And but the most simplest thing for me to do was to go to Goodwill or to go to those clearance racks and get more baby dolls. See, what we're doing is we're looking at the room through the eyes of our child. Those little girls, they go straight to those baby dolls. That is their favorite thing. On the other end of the spectrum, 2 of my oldest preschoolers, they're 5, and 2 boys, precious boys, very, very active boys. They're very good friends. So here's the issue I have with them. When one of them is not there, the other one doesn't want to go in. If one of them happens to be out, you may have that too, especially as your kids get older, and then they're the older kids, the older ones on the age scale of your preschool program. They kind of feel they're just ready for elementary school, and that's good, that's natural. But it is our job to guide their behavior, to make them, to keep them engaged. So what I found with those boys is to have at least one of these 3 things in my room at all times. One of them, Legos. And you be the judge of this. The smaller, since they're older, and this is an older classroom they're in, I can get the smaller ones. I have boys myself. They're older now, but Legos, there's something about Legos. They're just hypnotic. And first of all, it will bring them into the room, even if the other one wasn't there. The problem we were having if both of them were there is they would just start really playing too rough and just, not playing with the toys appropriately. But the Legos were great. And the ability to reinforce the lesson is right there. I mean, Legos, building, how many stories in the Bible are about building walls, tearing down walls, building up cities? Legos are great. My other thing, and this is kind of silly, but it so works, cups. Kind of the same thing with Legos, but the kids, especially these boys, love the cups, because when you're talking about, the last time I used these cups was at Easter, and we were talking about the earthquake, and so they love stacking them up, and you know how it goes. They stack, and then you can have an earthquake without knocking some other kid in the head, because they can, I'm not going to shake the table because I'll shake the camera, but and that is thrilling, absolutely thrilling. Someone gave us these cups. I have like a gazillion of them. They love them. I said 3 things. The other thing that has really helped these boys is maybe controversial if your church doesn't agree with guns and things like, I mean, not real guns, but like play things like that. These are Army men. I saved them for my kids. Oh my goodness, these have been a lifesaver with those boys. I don't pull them out all the time, and we do it when it is appropriate, when we are talking about armies, and there's many armies in the Bible. There's many stories of war, and those boys love that. So as long as I have one of those 3 things, I pretty much can manage their behavior. But again, so what we're doing is we are looking at our rooms and our spaces through the eyes of our child. We have already probably taking care of most of the behavioral problems before they even come in by taking some time to set the room up, set the space up intentionally for getting ready for those kids. Okay, so now it's time for the kids to come in. Engage the child before they even walk in the room. It does a couple of things. First of all, you're already starting teaching before they even take their first steps. You will welcome them. Come on in. Today we're going to talk about Moses and how Moses led his people, and you've already talking about your main points and what you want to do today. You're going to introduce them to some activities that are going to go ahead and get them engaged. That helps if you have any separation anxiety with the parent. It also might give you a couple of seconds to talk with the parent. I mean, we all know, especially if you've got kids, how hard it is to get kids to church sometimes. I mean, you may have already had yelling matches, and they may be tired, and you can already kind of get that information from the parent. So maybe this one's going to need a little bit of extra love. Maybe this one's going to be really tired, and he may need maybe they just need to go ahead and lay down for a few minutes. You've already kind of getting some information from the parents. So engage from the very, very beginning. Then the next thing you need to do when the kids are in the room to guide behavior, stay present, stay active. Playtime, again, for preschoolers is the way they learn. This is the majority of your teaching time is playtime. For them, it's teaching time for you. So all your activities in your space reinforce your lesson, even for the little bitties. If they pick up a toy, you are coming up with a way of how that is going to relate to God's love for them or their love for God. For the older ones, you've purposely put those activities out, so you're walking around the room. You're sitting on the floor with them. Let's build this wall, like the wall of Jericho. you also, by doing that, you are going to go ahead and cut off some maybe inappropriate behaviors. You can see it happening. Those little girls or little boys get a little too rambunctious. We might need to move them to another center. Or if you got siblings, I have several sets of siblings. They really can get on each other's nerves too. So I always try to maybe try to separate the siblings into different centers. Stay present, and I'm going to just make a confession here. This is hard for me to do because I love all my teachers and volunteers I work with, and it is so tempting to get caught up with your fellow teacher, your co-worker, and while the kids are playing, right? No, please don't do that. Just don't give in to that temptation. Go to lunch after, or coffee, or whatever. So I know it's tempting to want to visit with your fellow teacher, but stay present in the moment, so that you're able to engage those preschoolers and the activities that they're doing, and so you're making sure everybody's safe in the environment. So hard to do because we love the people we work with, but really, really important. All right, so we're going to engage children. We're going to stay present. We're going to give them choices and chances to make good choices for their behavior. So, and I'll give you an example. We have a tent in our toddler room. It's just, a play tent, and I love that tent. I loved it when I bought it, and I had just visions of toddlers going in there, a place where they could be quiet, a place where they could take a book, that we could use it when we talked about, different tents and caves and stuff for our Bible stories. And you probably can guess where this is going. A lot of times that tent is used as a wrestling mat, or for kids to roll around in, and the tent gets knocked over and things like that. Well, instead of just taking the tent and getting it out of the classroom, we're real consistent with it, because I do think it's a really great center, an activity for the kids to have. We just have given them really strict choices about it. Your choices for the tent are take a book in, or you may sit with a friend, or you may lay down. The choices are not to roll around or to knock the tent over. So to make sure that they feel like they have some control, and that can really do a lot to stop those bad behaviors when the kid feels like that they have a choice. Also with choices, when they need choices, but not too many. And we talked about that a little bit with our space. We'll talk about that some more with our lesson. You want them to be able to have some great experiences and not get bored in your classroom, but you don't want it to be such for them to get overstimulated. And I've just seen it when there are just toys everywhere, and there's toys that don't make sense, and they're all mixed up. It just kind of escalates their behavior, but if they're in an environment that even during playtime is structured and orderly, then I think you're going to find that their behavior is going to mirror that too. Okay, so we gave them choices, we engaged them, we're going to stay present. Another concept I would like you to think about, so you've done all those things, but you still have a child who's making some bad choices. I'd like you to think about time away versus time out. Time out, of course, is removing a child from a situation and in a sense isolating them. Since our time with our kids are so precious, let's try to think about time away. Say that child is making a bad choice. They're throwing the blocks, and that is definitely something you don't do in your classroom, and you've given them the choice and you've tried to redirect them, and they continue to throw the blocks. So now we're going to do time away. So Megan is making this bad choice with the blocks. Hey Megan, why don't you come over here? Let's go over here and let's color. Let's see, we're sitting on the floor with our clipboard, and we're gonna color, and we're gonna talk about why throwing the blocks is not good, why that's not a good choice. We love our friends. God gives us friends. We wouldn't want a block to hit our friend and hurt our friend. So think about time away as time not just an isolation for the child, but a really great teaching time. So, lesson time. Now you're at your lesson, and remember again, preschoolers are going to learn the most from playing. But it is important for them to sit and do a lesson, whether that be a video-based lesson, or you're going to read to them, or if they're really young, maybe it's just going to be a song. They still need to be able to focus in, to sit, and to listen. Of course, that time is going to be different for different age groups. During the lesson time, just some quick tips with that. Use proximity control. You might need to sit next to a child that is having some trouble. You may need to separate two children. A simple hand on the shoulder to redirect their attention. No matter, if we're talking about preschoolers, your lesson time is going to be pretty short. I would say, even with our oldest one, 5 minutes of sitting. And if they've listened to the story for 5 minutes, maybe now it's time to get up and do a worship song, and then they can sit back down maybe and do offering. Movement during the class, the whole class time, movement during the lesson time is really going to help guide that behavior. Okay, I want to share one more thing with you before our time is over, and we use this in some of our older preschool classes. This is our beloved prize box. Ta-da! And you will just be amazed at the treasures in this prize box. I'm talking about plastic bugs. We do have some candy in here, pencils. Okay, what do we use this for? Okay, I think, and we'll talk about this again at the lessons, I think 2 parts of your time with your kids are so important, the beginning and the end. The beginning, when parents are dropping off their kids, they're dropping off to their kids to these kids involved with engaging in activities. Your room, your area is inviting. At the end, when we give those children back to parents, we want the parents to come to the area, and it's orderly. You see kids engaged. This is why we use the prize box at the end. So what happens is, when we know that, it depends on how timely your services are, but we have a system to know when our final song is. So that's when it's time for the prize box. So the kids all come to the rug. One teacher, if you're blessed with middle schoolers or high schoolers, please use them, sit with the prize box, and these kids are just so excited about it. So they sit around. The other teacher, probably the lead teacher, is going to be at the door. So while we're waiting for parents to come, the teacher with the box can talk about the story, ask questions, go over the memory verse, whatever concepts you're using in your classroom. When the teacher with the box sees that parent, then that child gets 5 counts. We use 5 counts to pick their treasure from the box. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you got to go, and they've learned that, and they know they have 5 seconds. If they don't do it within 5 seconds, we just hand them something and send them on the way. Next week, they're going to know that they've only got 5 seconds. So what this does is it doesn't cost a lot of money. We have, just even sometimes it's things I found around my house, but it gives the teacher at the door a few seconds to talk to the parents. Parents are looking in. It's not chaos. The toys are already put away or covered up, and it ends the lesson well. And parents are seeing their child engaged, and again, we're learning. We're viewing our concepts. So I hope this has been helpful. I think, again, when you think about discipline, don't think about it in a negative. Discipline is a positive thing, a chance where we get the opportunity to teach children to make good choices. Thanks. I'll see you again soon.